Okay, hi everybody. May 19th, we have a turnaround 45-minute meetings. We're going to meet in executive session with full council. So let's move through. Can someone make a motion to approve the F&A minutes from the February meeting?
So moved.
Great.
A second.
Okay. All approved?
Yeah.
Thank you. Borough manager report, I'll just ask you all to review that as you see fit. There's nothing specific that F&A needs to address, so we can save that for full council. Then I'll move to item number 3 and ask Samantha to review the police pension update and the audit.
Yeah, unfortunately, as many of you probably noticed just following the stock market in general, it has not been a good year. So I noticed in the month of March alone, we actually lost 7.5%. So I reached out to CBIZ, who manages our pension investments, and just, checked in with them to make sure we're at least minimizing our loss for now as much as possible while the market, does what it does. The good news for the borough, is we're, in it for the long game. And the way it works is every 2 years we do our actuarial update. So there is a chance that the market doesn't turn around in the next year and a half, that we'll have to contribute a lot more money to make up for the difference. But, we can't really control that. And I know that, you have the response in the packet from CBIZ about what they're trying to do to, minimize the loss and, maximize our gain where we can during this very difficult market period.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to fix the door from.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you'll keep us posted. I have not looked at my 403 for that very reason.
Don't have a look. Yeah, and as you said, when we're talking about the long game, it isn't worth spending a lot of time looking. And if we're lucky, the stock market will be in at least somewhat of a better position by the time we have to measure again. So.
Right, and we would have to then supplement and contribute if it doesn't, but.
Yes, but that's
That'll be a 2024 budget.
Exactly.
Okay, the audit update?
Just very briefly, it's almost done. I think that I'm hoping at next month's meeting I'll have an actual audit to present.
Okay, is there any public?
There's no members of the public on Zoom.
Okay.
And none in the room.
Just none in the room, no. This is, especially with the air conditioning issue, I think we're not going to have so many people in the public this time.
Probably not.
Action items for Borough Council, minutes and schedule the bill. Anything that you feel like you need to point out or any questions from the committee on either of those items? Okay, perfect. Hearing none then, let's move through the reception area and the recording policy of meetings before we dig into 6.3 and 6.4, which we're really going to need some discussion on.
Sure. So actually, if I can just tackle meeting recording maybe first, I think that might be the quicker one to get through. They should both probably be relatively quick. So just talking with members of council informally, I have heard what sounds like a general desire for meetings, all public meetings, to be recorded. And I thought it was a pretty good idea, hence why I asked Cindy about putting it on the agenda here. And you have the memo from me about all the benefits of meeting recording. In order to actually do it, I think what we would need to do is have or at least to start doing it, we would need to have a computer in here dedicated to the OWL. And that way, members of the public, if a borough staff person isn't here, our committee volunteers could just click the button to turn on the OWL and would be able to do it. I think you could probably write like a little one-page, very simple, it's very easy to use the OWL instruction guide. And I think we'd be off to the races, as they say. The computer would need to be secured. I envision securing it to the AV part so it doesn't, go anywhere. And I do already have a request from an electrician, even just for our needs, to put electrical outlets and Ethernet ports in the middle of the floor in the council room, so we don't have wires running everywhere as a tripping hazard. So if the committee is, I think it's something that I probably could have just done on my own, but I wanted to get some feedback from the committee first. So if you all don't have any issues with that, we'll all just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I just have one comment that might make your job easier if it's an option. Sometimes there are options to get, like, basically a computer that's on a USB stick, so it just plugs right into the back of the monitor. Oh, I see. You also have the
Yeah.
Okay, so never. Just reset. Do what you want to do.
I appreciate the thought though.
Yeah.
Do you have a cost estimate ballpark?
Yeah, I would say probably for the computer and the lock, we're probably looking at like $500.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
You don't need like a.
And the electric, not for the outlet and everything, but.
Oh, not for the outlet, not, yeah, no, that's not gonna be $500.
No.
That's probably gonna be a 4-digit, number.
Yeah, okay.
But that wouldn't be just because of
Right.
wanting
We were
to.
getting the outlet anyway.
Right. Yeah.
I'm actually glad that you brought this to us, only because I think it sets the expectation and the tone for how we're communicating to the public, and that really should come from council and not the office, is to say that we need to make these meetings accessible. So it really is more of a policy than a budgetary item. Barbara, do you have anything to add, or?
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely, and I think, once we have this set up and running, I still think we maybe should think about, right now, the Narber Civic Association is very kindly posting all these videos on their YouTube page, but, my feeling is that should be on a borough page of some kind. And so I think there are just some other things like that we'll probably want to look at after we've got this up and running. But I'm really, I think it'll be great to have a dedicated computer, because there are some settings that you always want set a certain way, and we all know how Zoom's interface is different on every device you're on, and so if we've got a dedicated device for it, then it will always get the best recording possible. It's never going to be perfect, but.
Agreed. I do think that's a really important question, though, is how do we move this public meetings from the NCA over to the borough page, which is as easy as a tab. I mean, you're not
Yeah.
creating anything.
Right.
So I really would add to that policy of the public recordings that we move, or at least link to.
Yeah, I think it's really great now we're making so much use of SharePoint, like our, the agendas and minutes and stuff on our website are just linking that to our SharePoint server. And I do believe that Michelle Carroll actually has been downloading the recordings from Zoom onto SharePoint. So it'd just be as simple as adding a link, to our SharePoint page where we're already storing them. So we could definitely do that.
Oh, I think that would be great if we could do that as soon as, you think that's possible.
Yeah. And I like the idea of it, Cindy, you were saying it being a policy, because we all know that council makeup changes, administrative staff makeup changes. I don't think we want these videos to go away just because somebody down the road decides, I want to do this, for whatever reason. So in whatever way we can adopt a policy that, granted, we can't totally guarantee what future councils are going to do, but if we can codify it as much as possible, I think it makes sense.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I mean, how many times have we all used this in the last few months to say, when there's misinformation, no, let's go back to this video and you can see it. I think codifying it is really smart. Is that just a resolution?
That's
is that just a motion?
I think what I could do is I could ask John Walco, the borough solicitor, after this meeting, if he would be able to draft up a resolution for maybe the June council business meeting to approve, to actually codify, this idea, assuming, council approves it.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Agreed? Okay. Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you, Samantha. Do you want me to, are you going to follow up with him, or? Do you want
I'll follow up with John
Okay.
about that,
Yeah, I think that's really important. Thank you. Okay, let's bounce back then to 6.1, the office
Sure.
description.
I'm gonna pull up the design we got from Yerkes. I'll share my screen, so if anyone's watching this recording in the future, they'll know what I'm talking about. All right, so one item in your packet is the actual like estimate of cost from Yerkes for the design. And then the other item, which is currently downloading on my computer, is what the actual entrance look like. So while I wait on that download, I'll just note that the estimated cost for these improvements, if we did this exactly as Yerkes has designed it, is $22,000. Now the challenge with that price, I haven't had a chance to talk to Yerkes about this. That is above the state bid threshold, which means the borough would have to do a legal ad, collect bids, choose the lowest responsible bidder. Trust me, I'm all about getting the best possible price, but there is so much overhead involved in doing a bid, and we're so close to the bid threshold.
Seriously, there's no way.
So I think one of the things I want to talk about with Yerkes on the design is like, what do we do to get the cost under the bid threshold? We would still be required to get 3 quotes, which I think is a good, policy in general. So that's my first thought about this, and then I'm going to share my screen so that everyone, recording people and people in the room can see this. All right, so I'll admit, I have a little bit of trouble following this myself.
Yeah.
So one of the things I might also ask Yerkes for is like, not necessarily a full-blown architectural rendering, but even a back of the napkin kind of drawing of what this looks like when you're looking at it standing in the room would probably be helpful.
It would be.
But basically what my understanding of what's being proposed here, and you have to be kind of familiar with what the area looks like right now to kind of understand, but I think everyone in this room at least is. So where the high top table currently is, 2 bankers, so there'd be some drywall and then some glass, and then 2 bankers windows would be installed. So that way we could help up to 2 residents at a time. And then where the chairs and little tables are right now, an actual, again, drywall and a door would actually be put in. I'd asked Yerkes about doing some sort of window component to that area, because I don't want the public's view of staff completely blocked off, nor do I want my view, because I sit in the far back of the room, blocked off of like if someone happens to be standing in the lobby or something like that. And the last thing I wanted to do, we talked with the prior iteration of this committee last year about, we want the borough to have, we want to maintain safety, but we also want the borough to have like an open and welcoming feel for the public. And I think putting people in like a completely enclosed room where the only thing you can see is the banker's window is not going to be, the vibe that we're going for.
I totally agree. I feel like that's moving so far backwards to a transaction model of government, which we worked so hard to move away from.
Right.
And that's a lot of money, $22,000 for some drywall and a banker's window. I would hope that they could.
Part of it may be the ballistic resistant panels.
Yeah, but I still feel like it's.
I just don't know. I'm just saying that's the biggest part of the cost.
Yeah.
And then the window with level 6 film and door with level 6 core, I'm assuming that means that that's somehow resistant in some way too. So, we're not talking about just, a divider you put in your house.
Right.
We're talking about something stronger than that, which I think we have to do. I think we have to be responsible that way.
I will admit I did, again, this was like 2 or 3 years ago, and, inflation and, things have changed since COVID and all that. But in my last job, I did a similar project, and it was like $6,000–7,000. So I mean, that's kind of more the price range I was anticipating on this.
Maybe there's something that could be altered. The other thing I wonder too, and you can't tell from this really, how big is this area? Because I was wondering, will it be possible to have at least 1 chair in there?
Oh,
so that if there's someone who can't stand for very long and they're they're waiting to be served, I was like, I would hate to have this be a place where somebody's just like, well, now what do I do because I can't, you know?
I agree, and I think part of how they tried to design this as well was to be ADA compliant in
Sure.
terms of how big it is and where the angles are and all
Sure,
that kind of thing.
but I think there needs to be space then for us to have a chair for the person who
Yeah,
doesn't come in with the chair, but, you know, thinking of
Yeah.
all kinds, I can think of all kinds of situations.
So,
Necessary.
I guess I'll just say as a comment, Robert, follow up with you, and I know that you agree with me when you say that we need to be responsible. And we're not going to stop this here, but I think responsibility is having common sense gun control, right? And
Well-
so these expensive Band-Aids, and I say that because, you know, look no further than last week. So at grocery stores, you're not
I know,
safe.
I know.
And then taxpayers need to understand, okay, then $22,000 of your tax money is going to go to bulletproof glass because we don't vote for common gun control.
I know.
And so let's like connect the collateral damage. to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because it also hits your tax bill.
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, and to echo that point, the borough, just so everyone's very clear about this, there's state law that precludes the borough from preventing people from bringing weapons
Right.
into government facilities.
Right. We can't do anything about that. We,
I just wanted to footnote it.
no, yeah, I know, but I mean, it's like, we can't even.
My frustration.
We can't
Yep.
even do something for our borough to
Common sense.
let it that risk, yeah. Yeah, so we have to take these kind of steps, which, yeah, a little wackadoo.
So I'll talk with Yerkes with these comments I got from you all, and we can continue the conversation next month.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that transactionary approach that's dark and not welcoming is not the
Yeah.
direction we're going, so thank you.
And a drawing would be lovely that we can all look at and go, oh, that's what it's gonna look like.
Yeah. So Samantha, if you have nothing else, I'll move down to 6.3.
Yeah, I'm all good on 6-1,
Okay.
thank you.
So let's talk about special event policy and the huckster permit. And I want to give a little bit of maybe context, if that's helpful. Or Samantha, do you want to?
Fine, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the NBA, the former 4th of July, had planned numerous events throughout the year. COVID hit, and obviously those events paused. And Samantha onboarded actually during that pause. And 4th of July retired, 99, well now almost 100% of the events have now fallen under the umbrella of the NBA, including the Minerva fireworks. So it has all come back with a rush to a manager who was not ever here when we had all these events. And it's really given us an opportunity to say, oh, there needs to be a clear process. And you have some folks interpreting what's on the books differently than other folks that are hosting events. So in the last couple months, really 6.3 and 6.4, well, I guess 6.4 is for me, but anyway, 6.3 with volunteers has really come to light in that there has to be a clear process. And I think we go somewhere from free-for-all events to Ron Swanson, bureaucratic permit nonsense, and we find the Narborough sweet spot. But, you know, for council and the public to hear, you know, in the last 4 weeks, not even 3 weeks, the borough staff has discovered of 2 major events that were on the books that they were not aware of, that it was secured, and there's public works. I mean, we all know what it takes.
Yeah.
And from FNA, we also have to budget, those are in-kind donations. I mean, the borough doesn't charge the NBA for police overtime, for public works overtime. So we all need an understanding of what's on the books, what the in-kind donations are, because I think we should keep some sort of loose track of that. And a process where the organizer, the events coordinator understands here is a checklist and here is that a plaque. Part of this came up with the huckster permit because one event said, well, any vendor has to apply for a business, interpreted the huckster as if you sell cornbread at birthday, you need to register to pay your business privilege tax and get a permit. And I don't think that was the spirit of the huckster permit, nor do we think we really want to collect 0.1% of the $40 we made on the cornbread
Exactly.
is worth anyone's time, so we need to revisit a process for events and reevaluate this huckster permit. Did I miss anything
So
in
the
that?
huckster permit, actually, the borough solicitor found that, I don't think there's any action we need to take on that, because the solicitor found that that should not have been applied to those sort of events. There was an outdated version of the ordinance that for some reason borough staff were looking at, and now we're up to speed on that. But to your point out, business privilege tax, yes, the solicitor has recommended that borough council pass a resolution clarifying that special events do not fall under the business privilege tax ordinance and policy. And then, yeah, I think that, as you said, finding that sweet spot for Narberth, I'll admit that, being a bureaucrat, my solution to everything is to go very bureaucratic with it. And I do acknowledge that's not always the way to do it. So I think there's a good middle ground that's appropriate for Narberth. The example I provided was a special event permit process that Doylestown, Chalfont, and New Britain boroughs used back when I was over in that area of the world. And again, I think we'll need to sort out what that is and isn't appropriate for Narberth, but I thought it might be a good starting point for the conversation.
Yeah, can you kind of walk everyone through that in the public?
Sure.
For the public as well?
So basically, for anyone who's been over to Central Box, Doylestown and New Britain and Chalfont are all three kind of very different communities in terms of the sort of special events that go on in each one. I think probably Doylestown is most analogous to the sort of events we're having here in Narberth. And, what they were doing there was, not just things like, parades and events in the parks and that kind of thing, but also, if someone wants to do like a political rally or something like that, how do you accommodate all these different sort of things where people might need borough resources, whether it's police or public works or what have you. And also just so in terms of public safety, so the police aren't like thrown for a loop when suddenly there's like 100 people doing something, whatever it is, in the borough. So this special event permit was developed, and I'm just going to pull up that actual ordinance. And basically what would happen is, whenever you want to do an event that you thought was going to have a certain minimum number of people, you graduate beyond, just doing it. And I think that threshold, let's see here, I want to say it's either 50 people or 250 people. But anyway, basically the way the ordinance works and the way this permit application works is if you're going to do a special event, you have to provide some context on it to the municipality, what sort of resources from the municipality you think you're going to need, and then the municipality has the opportunity for each of those respective departments to review it and sign off on, yes, we can accommodate and support, whatever. Support not in terms of agreeing or disagreeing with the event, but support in terms of providing the requested resources for this event.
I'm sorry, I was just going to ask, at that time, do you collect the liability insurance, proof of liability insurance?
Yeah, let me actually pull up pulling up the actual permit form might be a better way of looking at the ordinance. So, and actually I'll share my screen again in case anyone is watching the recording here in the future. All right, so here's the actual permit form, and I'll zoom in a little bit here. So you see, like, it has who is the applicant, who's your organization, what sort of event are you having, and there's all these different little categories, ranging from parade, race, street festival, public gathering. So the public gathering threshold is 50 people, a private gathering of 250 and more people. And again, I think that reflects the sort of properties in Doylestown and Chalfont, New Britain, compared to
on private property.
On
too.
private, that's right.
Yeah, because if,
Okay, Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know that we have private property that you could put 250 people.
No, I could think of maybe 2 or 3.
So, yeah, so what I was gonna say is when I looked at this, I was like, oh, yeah, there's a number of things in here that just don't apply to us, and so we wouldn't have them in our,
Yeah.
yeah.
And one of the things that was listed here is, these are the things the applicant's responsible for providing. And again, some of this reflects the nature of those boroughs compared to Narberth. And then insurance was one of the explicitly listed requirements on here and the level of coverage that you have to have. So to answer that question, yes, that was part of the form, was insurance had to be provided.
So I don't know that that's something that our committee needs to come through and adjust to Narberth. I think that's something maybe you all can do, or do you want to feedback on that, Samantha?
Sorry, on what?
Do you want to kind of come through this form and look at Narberth?
Sure.
Fitting it to Narberth, or do you think that's something that would work in the office?
Yeah, we could definitely, again, use this form and the ordinance that was in your packet, again, as
Yeah.
a starting point. And yeah, I can definitely come back to the committee with, staff have looked at this and this is the appropriate form and process we think would work best for how things go in Narberth.
Any comments about the form, Ira or Barbara? Anything to add to?
The one thing that I would just say is that, I think we'll probably think of some things after we see it
Yeah.
tailored more to Narberth that will say, oh, maybe we should add this or that, but, or take something out. But I think the insurance might be something that we want to give people some, I don't know, something to reassurance on, because they're going to be like, oh my God, that's expensive. How would I get it? I don't even know where to get it. I don't know what to do. Some kind of, here's where you can find out how you can get this. And so I don't know, maybe that's something that the Business Association is going to know, because they've had to help so many groups come up with that. But I just think that would be a really good thing, because that is kind of new. And I will say, when I was on council the first time, we talked about doing something like this and just didn't have the time to put something like this into place. We did do something for this building, but didn't get to anything that covered the parks. And that was one thing we talked about, was insurance. And you don't have to have insurance to have events in here the same way this would be required, I don't think. Depends on, I guess it depends on the event.
Yeah.
It depends on the event. If it's a
I don't know if it
meeting,
was enforced, but I think you do.
even if it's a meeting, I think if it was a meeting, you have to, all right, well then I'm just.
And maybe
my
that's where
notes.
we want to think about
Yeah.
that sweet spot for Narberth.
Yes.
Because there's a difference between, the Skyfair hunt, that's an NBA event, and we're under the ride of the NBA, we take
Right.
out the $250 for that. Do we want block parties to, is that going too far down the spectrum?
Well, we already have a permit for block, the only thing we currently
Yeah,
regulate, we do
insurance.
have, I'd have to, let me see.
I don't know whether, I don't know about that.
Do we want?
I think we
Well,
just asked the applicant to indemnify the borough.
Right. So
Well,
that's-
see, and that's what I think we do with this, with the user agreements for this building. So like, the garden club, why I couldn't come up with that, I don't know. But for their meetings in here, do we want them to have to give insurance? We probably just want them to indemnify the borough.
So the only thing I really want in terms of pickiness on my part about this is just whatever our liability
Well,
insurer says we
yes.
have to do.
Absolutely, and I think
Whatever
we
that
take-
is,
Yeah,
Yeah, I think for that though, Samantha, we take out borough meeting space right now
Yeah.
and really just look at special events.
yeah.
Because, and our liability insurance, I agree with you, there's our
Yeah.
answer. And then I think having resources, if the insurer comes back and says, yeah, for a block party, we do some sort of information, this is how you get a rider from your
Yeah.
homeowner's insurance. It
Exactly.
only has to be one person,
Yeah.
that we help folks.
yeah.
Um,
But if you're like, I don't know, the music in the park, do those people know what to do? I don't know.
Yeah, well, because it's under the NBA.
Well, yes, now.
So they do.
Now they would,
Right,
but before, would they have known? I don't know.
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
so, and it would be good, I think, if we help people know that, or somebody new starting, the Pride in the Park folks. I'm
Right.
sure they didn't know. So I
Right.
think we just need to make sure that we're giving folks some information to help them with this, so they're not stopped from doing an event because they're like, I don't know how to get insurance, it's
Right.
gonna cost too much money, I don't know, no, forget it.
Yeah, to that point, we recently had meetings with Narberth boys and girls basketball leagues, and they were really cooperative, just they had never had to do this before,
Yep.
and they were kind of in the same boat. And it's actually funny, they ended up getting their, the required insurance from the borough's insurer. And that's not a direction I want to push people in, it's just the person who, some of the folks that happen to know our insurance agent,
Yep.
and it worked out, but that's also not a direction I want to push people in. So,
Oh, that's interesting, because I was thinking, can't we just refer them to our insurer? And not say you have to do this, but hey, here's a name
yeah,
of
and
someone.
we could, as long as we're very, very explicit that you don't have to use our insurer, just.
Yeah, well, if you're saying don't do it, then.
Yeah,
trust me.
right, but not to.
Yeah.
Is there a time frame that you want to say you have to have this permit application in 3 months prior to, or two, whatever the office feels like is in a manageable time?
Yeah, that's something I'd want to talk with Chief Gallagher and our Public Works Manager, Jeff Ellman, about, because it's actually funny. One of the two events you mentioned, I was talking about the Public Works Manager earlier today, and he's like, oh, it'd be nice to have at least 2 weeks notice. And I said 2 weeks, I was thinking more 2 months.
Yeah.
So I'll see what, what he and Chief Gallagher think, and the three of us can figure out what's comfortable for the three of us, and let you all know what we think.
Because if we had a clear tab on our webpage, special event, permits and process, we could put Barbara, everything you're talking about, the calendar, so folks can look, oh, I guess I can't have my event now because there's already something. Links towards the permit, a clear outline. I really do think it will save everyone
I agree.
juggle
I do
in the
too,
future.
because nobody needs to get close to the wire for their event and find out something that they didn't know they had to do. That's just not, we don't want that.
I'll go with that, sure. Nor do you want Public Works to think they had a weekend off and now they don't.
Well, yeah, that too.
All the above. And we do from FNA, events are back with a vengeance, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
But we really do need to get a sense of what's happening because it affects our budget.
Yeah, it does. That's true.
And I definitely want to echo that message from the perspective of the office, is that like part of what makes Narberth so great are these events. And without the amount of work that these volunteers are putting in, there's no way the borough office could do it. I just think, the point of this process is to help us help you.
Yeah,
Just want to make sure people understand.
absolutely. And I also think adding to the form to make it kind of custom Narberth is the new key entrance process as well. So, I'm thinking of the Dickens Festival. In the past, the building was open, or I would get a key from someone, and I would let myself in because we would do costumes here. Really thinking about, are there doors that you're going to need access to?
Well, maybe that's part of the application too.
Right.
Is, are there parts of the complex down here that you're going to need access to?
Right,
Yeah.
the park needs
Yeah.
the east wing and west wing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the great thing about the system we have now is you can pre-schedule it. So like someone doesn't have to be on site, but we have to know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you need to know what space people are expecting they're going to be able to use too.
Oh, yeah, I for sure have a key somewhere to all these buildings and key from an event.
But yes, but they don't work anymore, so.
Right.
Well, soon they
It's scary, it's scary.
Yeah.
So Samantha,
Yeah.
is it even easier if staff, or even, I would be happy to eyeball it before as well, we present it to FNA and then to council, or do we want to?
I think I'd like one more round with F&A, if you don't mind.
Perfect.
Yeah, that would be great. And I can go ahead and ask the solicitor to do the resolution for the business privilege tax. I think that's pretty straightforward.
And we all agreed that that is.
Oh, yeah, that's
right.
just,
So, okay,
that's so silly.
perfect. Then let's unanimously get that together. We'll do one more round look of the permit process before we bring it to council. Okay.
If I may, given that we have 10 minutes left here, if we could, if you're open to, given that the summer intern proposal is kind of time sensitive, we could prioritize that over the
Let's
volunteers.
go, sure.
All right, so thank you. So to her credit, my assistant, Michelle Carroll, suggested the idea of trying to get a summer intern in the borough office. And so I asked her to draft up a memo basically stating like, why do we need, like, I agree that we do, but I don't expect the general public and council to know necessarily what the value and benefit of having a summer intern would be. Michelle wrote up this memo that is in your packet that I'm going to open up so I don't forget all the details. And basically what we're looking for is someone who is currently enrolled in school, as preferably in a public administration program. It's something that is recommended by the International City and County Management Association, of which I'm working on getting my membership again for that, and Michelle is a member. There's a brief kind of outline of what a job description would look like. But I think one of the biggest things that Michelle wants an intern to work on is her and I think informally with members of council have talked about revamping the borough website. And I think that's like the biggest project Michelle would want some support from an intern on. But you have this memo here, and I just wanted to see if FNA would have any interest and would be willing to recommend the council take a look at this. Because council would ultimately have to approve the job description and the money involved and all that.
Is this for this summer?
It would be for the summer, yeah.
So is this a college student?
It would be preferably, yeah.
Because they're mostly like have jobs, I mean, it's already like, they graduate.
You think we'd miss that?
I think you missed that this year.
I mean, except for Drexel.
Well,
But then they do co-op, so then I'm just sort of late available.
Yeah, you'd only have a freshman, and I'm not sure you want a freshman in your job description. Yeah, I think you did, like, we missed the vote on this point, but I don't know.
High school student, which you really don't want.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. The
I'm just saying that like,
Yeah.
they might be available. I mean, so.
I think even just the webpage, you should get these TSA kits are phenomenal. Barbara,
TSA.
It's the Technology Science Association, and these high school and middle school kids are phenomenal. If that's the primary revamp of our webpage, I suspect you might be able to get a really high quality high school student for this year.
I'm sorry,
I know we're short on time, but just out of curiosity, like how elaborate is the technology behind the borough website? I mean, is it done in WordPress or something?
It's in WordPress.
Okay, well, so then it doesn't require like a,
No.
you don't need a programmer.
No.
Okay, good.
So I had two thoughts. One is, I still don't think it wouldn't hurt to, even if we missed a lot of the college students, it still doesn't hurt to put a posting like this out there, because there was one year where I started a summer job that come July 4th was just like, I had to quit. And I would have loved to have found something and couldn't, because at that time there was just nothing. But you don't know, there might be somebody who, for whatever reason, they don't have something lined up for the summer. So, but I also like the idea of the high school students.
Open it up to both.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, especially if you're looking at website redesign, and in that case, I mean, the job description didn't mention website redesign. And so I was like, ooh, if that's to me, that was like, when I saw that in the memo, I was like, oh, that's going to get people who are like, woo, because, they love doing that. And I'm like, oh, it's not in the job description. Somebody reads that, they're going to be going, oh, all those administrative tasks. I mean, okay, but where's the fun stuff? It's like, so Michelle might want to think about that too, in her, in what she puts out for this. And then my other question was just, what would the pay be for this? I don't know what percentage.
Yeah, let's see here. I think I remember talking about it with Michelle. Let me just try and refresh my memory if that's in the.
It's not in the memo
Okay.
or the job description.
So I would say, based on my past experience with this, is you're probably going to be looking at like 15 to 20 bucks an hour sort of situation. So that would be my take on what you'd be looking at. Probably
That would get a member of the public.
We're looking at probably like, okay, $20 an hour, 20 hours a week, 12
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at $5,000 for the summer.
To have our website work done, oh yeah, because it's good, but it could be so much better.
Totally. I think I would almost pull out and just write one for the webpage design.
Well, that's true, yeah.
And get a high school student, because I do feel that I think the caliber of the person you would want for an internship is likely gone. I mean, you can try it.
Yeah.
But that might be two separate skill sets. To your point, I think a web designer student is going to be super excited.
Yeah.
And $5,000 is a heck of a lot less than if we were to outsource it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But so this, you would almost need approval tonight for this, though.
So what I'm thinking is, and I talked with Michelle Carroll today about this, is if you all at least kind of like, we're okay with the concept of it tonight, we could at least start, advertising it like tomorrow, and then council at their, June 2nd meeting could talk in detail about it. And then we could just, if we had to pull the plug on it before we actually make the final decision to, bring someone on, then so be it. But I really am hopeful that if the three of you are on board, at least one other council member would be.
Yeah, I think, are you okay with that? I think with time sensitive, again, I don't feel the need to even, I guess we have to revisit in June. I don't want you to miss the opportunity because I think June's going to be way too late.
Yeah.
If we get students before they're out on the 17th. So yeah, let's put that on, since the three of us agree that you move ahead.
Yeah.
And we'll look back in June.
I think so.
Thank you.
And yeah, and we can always vote on it in June, at the June 2nd meeting.
Yeah.
We don't have to wait until the business meeting
Yeah.
to vote. if we want to.
Okay, well, let's adjourn then, if nothing else, because we're going to move into executive session.
Yeah, so we'll pick up the volunteer application form at our next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, adjournment to executive session. Discuss a
Well,
personnel
sorry, just to be clear, this is not executive, we're not adjourning to executive session for F&A, we're adjourning this
Okay.
meeting, and then council is having
Okay.
an executive session.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
Yes.
Or let me turn on